We all good? We clear? I'm about to drop in because. Just hanging around. Welcome to the Follow D Money podcast. This week, I have a special guest. Been trying to tap in with this man for a minute, and he's finally here. He made it.
We're here.
I have Sean Oreo Jones in the building, and right now, I don't know if you know much about this situation, but I bring people to the podcast who I think are doing some pretty dope shit in the city of Indianapolis, and you have been doing a lot of cool things, and I've been watching you move and operate, and I've been wanting you on the podcast, but right now you have something going on, and we'll get into that later. But if you could do me a favor, for the people who are not familiar with you, please introduce yourself and tell us where you come from.
Oh, yeah. Sean Oreo Jones. I'm an artist here in the city. I've been doing this rap shit probably for about over a decade, a little bit plus. Yeah, I've been tapped in. I cut my teeth of doing like punk and hardcore stuff when I was a kid. Came from a little town in northern Indiana called Warsaw.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, music's been pretty much a part of my whole life since I was a little kid, in different ways and shapes, look different. But yeah, I came here for college, got to meet my pops and his side of the family, and then just started, kind of tapping in and, going to shows and learning about the city and, found love in hip hop and just kind of never looked back.
Okay. So you say you got into music at a young age. So
for sure.
Does your family come from a music background?
My pops plays alto and tenor saxophone. My uncle plays flute, jazz flute. Was rest in peace. But yeah. So subconsciously, I think it's always been a part of my DNA. Yeah.
Yep. So you came from Warsaw.
Yeah.
Small town.
Small fucking town. Yeah.
Small town. So
yeah.
What was it like coming from there to Indianapolis?
It was difficult. Yeah. So I didn't know anyone coming here. I didn't, except for like my cousins and my pops. I didn't know a soul. So I was kind of flying blind at first.
Right.
I hated Indianapolis because I'd get lost. I couldn't go anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, it was a challenge for sure. I came here not really looking for anything except just, school at the time. I wasn't really taking my music seriously. I was making beats on my Xbox, going to record stores and just picking up as many CDs and records as I could. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What was the music scene like when you tapped into Indianapolis back then?
Man, I was actually kind of fortunate to grow up at a time where like there was a lot of shows. Like kids would be throwing DIY shows at like the Center Lake Pavilion and there's the old fireman's building, so it was just like a lot of punk and like Christian hardcore was kind of crazy in the early 2000s. So they'd have all these bands. It's probably like every other weekend. There wasn't shit to do in the town, but like there was this like weird kind of thriving like music scene. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you transitioned. You said you did punk.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was probably about my sophomore, junior year in high school. Yeah, I was in a band called Screaming Hemorrhoids. Yeah, just like a thrash punk band.
Screaming?
Yeah. We just were playing shitty music. You know what I mean? Trying to find ourselves, and that was like what we did to pass time. Yeah.
Dang. And so, how did you transition into hip hop? Like, what made you say this is my thing?
Yeah, I love that question. So I came here to Naptown. I was super lonely. Didn't know. All I had was pretty much my Xbox. I don't know if you remember the first generation of Xbox.
Yeah.
Had a music MTV generator too.
Yep.
So and on that Xbox you could import CDs. So I would just put, you could make your own soundtrack to like Tony Hawk or any kind of game. So yeah, so I'd upload songs and just like sample and make beats on my Xbox.
Yep.
My cousin Kareem, like he was like a real catalyst to it because like he'd cut my hair and we just listen to rap,
Yep.
Jay-Z, all kinds of shit. Like, and then I realized that there was a whole nother coin, within the genre itself,
Right.
stuff that obviously out of the radio.
Right.
So just like Tribe Called Quest, Ninth Wonder, like Lil Brother, like a lot of just like
Yep.
underground, like low key shit, like heavy sample based stuff at the time, Lupe,
Yep.
Kanye. But yeah, and then beyond that, I would just go to the record store and just go through the hip hop section, and I just kind of had my eye open, I was like, yo, this shit is fire. Like
Right.
I get a lump in my throat talking about it sometimes because it was just like a really important time in my life.
So
Yeah.
what was that an easy transition for you though?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, because then I didn't really know my pops' family, and my pops, like I just didn't meet my pops, but pretty much just get to know my pops at like 18.
Yeah.
So I'm just like trying to, that was like kind of like another thing that brought me here, where I'm just like trying to get familiar with the culture and just like figure out my place and who the fuck I am. You know what I
Right.
mean? But yeah, I feel like that was just like a very pivotal moment in my life,
Did you feel more natural with the hip hop side?
I did. It was
Yeah.
kind of crazy. So I just like, I would just start writing. I'd make these beats and I'd write and I'd write and I'd write. So it's like that first year here, I'd just be writing like crazy,
Right.
and I just, freestyling, with the
Yeah.
homies, going to house parties and ciphering and shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, this is like so natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
And the music scene from when you got here
Mm-hmm.
to when you started to elevate as an artist, how did you see that shift?
When I first, like I said, I couldn't get into anything. I wasn't 21. I feel like a lot of the venues and spaces in the city
For 21
at
and
that
over?
time, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So it's probably like around 2010, I think, was when I first started to try to navigate, and I was just like, my goal was just to play a show.
Yep.
And there really wasn't that many spaces or avenues for that to happen,
Yep.
beyond just like clubs. I think there was like locals only and like a couple very, small bar and grill, spots
right,
like on
right,
the north side.
Right.
Shout out Ike Daniels. I think he was the first person to ever put me on a bill. But
Right.
yeah, it was just kind of like bleak. But that's not to say before me it could have been a whole different thing. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah. So
So your music career had to have a sort of influence for you to create a festival, right? So we're going to talk about Chreece now,
Mhm.
and I want to know where the idea of that came from and what
Yeah.
made you think that Indianapolis was ready for a festival?
So I didn't really think anything was ready for anything
Right.
at that
Okay.
point, but like I was living in Fountain Square. This is probably about like 2011, 2012.
Yep.
The neighborhood I was living in was really, 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 the energy was crazy. The street I lived on, Morris, on that street, there's probably about 5 or 6 different bands that were living in houses. So like any given day, it was just like you could hear band practices. Rent was cheap as hell.
Right.
I was just out of college, I was just like,
Were you doing music full time?
I was not doing music full time. I mean, I was like full time in my mind. Yes, I was
You were doing
grinding,
it full time.
but I'm like working. I'm working at like Milktooth and
Right,
like working at restaurants and having like a couple $100 in my bank account.
Right,
What I
right.
mean? Like, what the fuck am I doing? But yeah, it was cheap as hell to live down there. Like, you could get like 3 people and pay like $100 and $200 in rent.
Damn.
Like.
Can't
But
do that now.
the community there was something different. This dude Jake Gardner had this festival called Cataracts where it was just all house shows like psych rock and like experimental shit. But it was like hundreds of kids and it was all house venues. So this block, like people were just going in and out and the energy was just like crazy.
Yep.
And I just, at that point, I felt like I established myself enough and had a relationship with these venues in this Fountain Square
Yep.
area, like, you know, White Rabbit. Hi-Fi was super small at that time.
Yep.
You know, they had like studios in the Murphy Building. There was an art gallery called General Public Collective that was a part of that too. We
Yep.
were a group of artists trying to get the space to keep it alive. Yeah, and I was just like, man, it would be dope to just have a day where it's just like a whole bunch of acts, like a whole bunch of hip hop acts all in the city, like one day. And at that time, I feel like 2015, it was established. There was a lot of people, you know, grinding and doing their thing and playing, and the energy. I feel like, and just the scene was it was the right time.
The
Yeah.
scene allowed you to have the idea.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have a lot of artists to choose from, you
Yeah.
probably wouldn't come up with the idea.
For sure. Yeah.
And you and Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah. My
Came up
dog.
with it together?
No, he did. He came in about probably like the fourth one.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So 2018 was
This
when
was
he came.
all you.
At the beginning, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
2015. Yep. So 2015 was the first year. Yeah.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. And I had some help
Yeah.
with some folks, you know,
Yeah.
like here and there, like volunteer coordination and stuff like that. But yeah, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing.
Right.
Like, I'm not a promoter. Like, I'm not like I facilitate like house parties and shows and shit in my life. But this was like the first time I'm
Right.
like, all right, I guess I feel like I can put a show on. Let's see if we can just like orchestrate some chaos for
Yeah.
one day. Yeah.
What's the mission statement for Chreece?
That's a good question, man. And I feel like at this point it feels different to every person in the city.
Okay.
My goal and my intention of the fest always is to just celebrate the city and the scene for one day. You know, and it's impossible to, you know, if you think about Indianapolis as a city, there's probably about what, like 800,000. It's like damn near 1 million people that
Yeah.
live in. Probably about like 10% of them are inspiring artists in
Right.
some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to, you know, gather that in one day, but I try my fucking hardest to try to coordinate. But I think that, like I said, the most important thing is just to like showcase what's popping as far as like the folks that are, you know, active, that can put on a show, that haven't, you know, that know how to rock a stage, can
Right.
captivate an audience,
Right.
you know.
So how do
Stuff
you
like that.
how do you decide like who's going to perform and who's doing what?
So we have an actual Jay Brookins, yeah, who does most of the A&R stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and then there's a group of people with him, yeah, that kind of
Kinda
go
like
through
scouts.
the scout. Yep,
Yeah.
they're going to shows.
Yep.
Or and that was like kind of the first couple of years I was just trying to go. I'd go to shows and I'd be like, yo, if you got a show, hit me up. Like,
Right.
shoot me your flyer or whatever. Because the genre has just changed so much over the years, where it's like, you know, it goes like ebb and flows with like live performance as well as just like streams and what people are doing online.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's kind of a crazy labyrinth to navigate.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to know what is it about the city of Indianapolis? Take away the music.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you love the most?
Oh man, that's a good question. You know, like I feel like you can't really love Indianapolis unless some days like you wake up and you're like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I think that's important. I love Indianapolis. There's some days I wake up and I'm like, this is fucking paradise on earth.
Yeah.
And then some days I wake up and I'm like, what? I'm hitting my head against the wall.
Yeah.
But I think it's a beautiful place for people to take a chance and really focus on what they really want to do, what they really believe in. You know, but we're set up here. This is a beautiful space. This came from an idea.
Yep.
And I'm sure people are probably like, you're fucking ludicrous for thinking about this. My whole life, I've been told no, or the majority of it, what am I doing? Is this going to work out? What if it doesn't work out?
Yep.
I feel like the city is a a good catalyst for people that have been told no so much that they can brush that aside and still thrive.
Okay.
If that makes
Yeah, that
sense.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, what what would you say will be the biggest difference from someone who went to the very first Chreece if they just showed up this year?
hmm
What would you say is the difference? Like, what would it look like differently?
I feel like the city looks different. The
Okay.
neighborhood looks completely different. I think it was also another regrouping thing because of the pandemic. I feel like the scene and everyone was like kind of like in a regrouping phase.
Yep.
People, the sounds are different. The way the people that are going to shows are different.
Yep.
And we have different, activations and stuff outside of just the live performances that we haven't done before. So I'm really excited to like see that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
how do you guys make sure that the crowd is diverse? Like, how do you make
Mhm.
sure that it's not just hip hop heads, but
Mhm.
Indianapolis people, residents going to this show?
That's
Like,
a
how does
yeah.
Trees say this is for Indianapolis? This is not just hip hop.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like that's changed too throughout the years. And
Yeah.
it's I getting to the point where you just like you created something, you put all your tender love and care into it, and then you gotta let it go, and then you kind of look back and see, what it is. But I feel like I strive for, peace and positivity, and that's that's something that like is really important to me.
Hmm.
And also diversity. I remember like it was probably the second Treese. I remember walking down the street and this couple and this lady was like, "Man, I've never seen so many black people down here before." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Hell yeah, it's so fire!" Because like in the early or like probably like 18, like around Civil War time, it was an actual black base.
Right.
I don't know if you know, Kayla Austin is this Color Troop project where
Uh-huh.
like Fountain Square was like a Black Wall Street back in
Wow.
its time.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like an actual like military training camp,
Dang.
and like black families were living there. Yeah, it's a crazy
That's
history. Like
dope.
behind Arthur's guitar shop, there's a
Yep.
Colored Troops tree
Yep.
that they planted post Civil War that is like still up to this day. So
Damn.
there's like a lot of rich culture and stuff that no one tells you about. Yeah, like
Yeah.
if you're by like that Chili Water
Yep.
brewery in
Yep.
Fletcher, there's a plaque from the Indianapolis Historic Society that talks about the Colored Troops,
Dang.
and it's like their 200th anniversary on the day of Treese
Do you know
too.
Samson?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure he knows
I know
all
he know.
about it.
I
Yeah,
know.
he knows about it more than me. I'm probably butchering shit right now, but
I know he knows.
yeah, for sure. I know he knows. Yeah.
I do want to know about so Teresa's history. Just some random questions about it.
Yeah.
Who would you say would be the biggest names that you've had on stage?
Um, I'm trying to think. Well, first year was Mick Jenkins, and that's the thing. Like we celebrate local shit and
Yep.
local people
Yep.
every year, but
Okay.
we try to put in some national acts. And
Yep.
the first year in 2015 was Mick Jenkins was the headliner. We've had Valet from Chicago. We had Talib Kweli. And the same year, Griselda Records is like Benny the Butcher, and Conway,
Yeah. Yeah.
Conway the Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever reached out to someone that you wanted and you were upset that they didn't?
We in 2019 we almost had Doja Cat.
Damn.
Yeah, so we were like, inches away from that, and that was like before Doja Cat was Doja Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. We almost had Sheck West too, but there was like that's a thing we always and Ron and Brookins always strived on trying to get these cats like
What
on the
about Gibbs?
verge.
You ain't never.
Yeah, for sure.
Is he? I mean, he's from Indiana.
100%.
So
Yeah,
why
that's
he
a
ain't- why he ain't
we
coming?
tried. Yeah,
Oh,
we
you
tried.
tried?
Yeah,
Okay.
100%, and it's gonna happen.
I would say
yeah.
Freddie Gibbs, in my opinion, probably the biggest name in Indy, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, he doesn't even claim it, Indy. He like claims Gary. I don't even think he claims
No,
Indiana.
he don't claim Indiana. Like, I
he's-
wouldn't say he's the biggest rapper in Indy,
But in our hearts,
Indiana.
and our minds, I
Yeah, but
would
I
like to
think
claim.
I think that would be a dope look for him,
100%.
and I mean, especially for the festival. But
for sure,
I mean,
sure.
I think that he got.
We were inches away from him this year too. Yeah,
come.
it was conflict of his schedule.
Yep.
Yeah, this year, but yeah, we're so fucking close.
There was a time, there was a article in Double XL about Chreece, right?
There was, in 2019. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did that affect? Did you see anything? Was it anything physical that you could just feel from that article? Like, national attention is huge for something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that was like also kind of a turning point where like people took us seriously in the city too, because like that's the thing. Like the first year or whatever, like you have like the city and like the IMPD hitting you up, being like, "Hey, you straight?" Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's good.
But then you have like the mayor like mentioning the festival and his speeches and shit, stuff like that. Like, national attention's always gonna be like justifying or just like. It feels good, but like we were going crazy. Yeah, I feel like up at that point, and then I feel like we knew what happened like after Ron passing, and then just the pandemic itself. I didn't even know if I was gonna do this again.
Damn.
Yeah. Like we were at essentially like. It was a high, 2019 was like our most successful, like craziest year up to that point.
Yep.
And then it was just like rug pulled out from under you. Yeah, it was crazy.
But the best way to honor someone is to let his legacy show in something that he put his heart into, right?
100%. Yeah.
Could you just talk about Indiana Jones, his influence on the city and hip hop? I mean, I knew him personally, and he was just a great dude. But when it comes to hip hop, and the one thing that I'll always tell people is I'm from LA, so it took me a while to get used to Indianapolis.
I'm
right?
sure.
Yeah. But when I met Ron, he literally would text me when LA acts would come in. Because I didn't know. You know what I mean? I wasn't paying attention. And he would tell me, like, Alcoholics at Hi-Fi. I'm like, bro, how you know I'm there? But that was Indiana Jones. Yeah. And it's like, I walk into a club, stretching out a West Coast song gonna play right away. That was my guy. Like, and that was just the love. He made everybody feel like he was only thinking about them. You know what I mean? So how does the festival honor a legacy like that after he's gone?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like he was just like, you're right. He made made the impossible feel possible. Yeah. Like every approach with it, he'd just be like, "We got it. Like this is it." So yeah, that's something that I was like inside. I've had like an internal monologue, even like damn near a year ago. Like, all right, I could hear him in my head. It's time, B. Like, let's go. Let's get it.
Right.
So yeah, like. We're setting up a scholarship for him, like Ron Minor, Indiana Jones scholarship. You probably heard it here first. Yeah, it's my first time really publicly talking about it. We're setting that up for kids that are wanting to learn how to DJ. With Doug at 40 West.
Nice, man.
Academics. Yeah. So we're trying to get scholarships for kids. Try to pay it forward with that. We got a dope legacy T-shirt that we're dropping, and all the proceeds will go to that. And Sweet. So Ron always tried to pay it forward. Not always tried. He fucking paid it forward. Yeah. No matter what, and sometimes through all the hustle and bustle and all that shit, sometimes it's hard to like really see that when you're like in the grind. Yep. But he did not. He didn't second guess that.
Right.
So I think that's like a really important factor to honor his legacy by keep on, and trying to find a lot of these cats too on the bill of this year. Are younger and trying to like get their feet wet, and I think it's important to keep that ethos.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Moving forward with the festival, what is your biggest dream or goal for the festival?
Man, that's a good question. Um, I think it would just be. That's a good question. You got me stumped right there, man. I would love it to just be maybe a multiple day thing, and
Okay.
I don't know, like every day, or every year that it looks different and it feels different. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself
Yeah.
or aside myself. I just want to live in the moment, and I think that's what's made Tree successful.
Yeah.
It's just like worrying about what is in front of me right now and trying to stay true to myself and everyone that's around me that's working and is a part of this, to
Yeah.
make it true, authentic Indianapolis experience. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But I feel like it just, continuing to grow. Maybe the venues change. Maybe it's in a different space.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's in a different neighborhood. Like I've thought about that,
Yeah.
but I think it's just always gonna be trying to true to the culture. It's yeah.
Would you say that Treese would be it would be a good festival for up and coming artists to aspire to be on the bill?
Yeah.
I think that, you know, it's a festival that an artist that is coming up that'll say, you know what, I'm gonna be on Treese next year. Like that to me, that could be a goal.
Yeah,
You know, that
100%.
somebody just wants it to be a stage that they trying to aspire to get to.
Yeah. I feel like that's like every year that has
Yeah.
always been like a hot topic of
Yeah.
people that didn't make it or were overlooked. And but that being said, there's a lot of artists that go there, producers, DJs, rappers that are in that neighborhood like that day that, there's a whole bunch of different little ciphers going on.
Right.
They see it, they link and build network. Like I feel like that's what it's all about, is just to tap in and like meet other people. And yeah.
How hard is it to get multiple days, you think?
It's probably not hard, but I mean physically and mentally. I barely made this day. I was late as hell. Like this is like a lot of shit in my head right now. So, but yeah, and we're a small ass team. There's probably about like 4 of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For real. To be honest. So it's like, yeah, just kind of getting the wind back in the sails and getting it kind of, took me a second since 2019. So now just trying to, we'll get it. We'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
I only got a couple more questions left, but if I was an alien and I just landed on Earth and I came to Indy, where would you take me?
Damn. That's a good question. Are you hungry? Are you trying to?
I'm trying to get in something now.
You trying to get in something? Oh, damn, man. That's a good question. Ooh, okay, I know where we go. We go to the Central State Insane Asylum.
Oh,
I had a residency there. I made like a
you was crazy?
No, I wasn't crazy.
You had a residency.
It was closed.
You lived there.
Yeah, I did. I lived in the old nurses administrative building.
Oh, okay.
And I made a project. This was like 2018.
Yeah.
But I had a key to all the buildings.
That
I still have the key.
scary.
I still have the key, low key.
That
But
shit
yeah,
sounds
we
scary.
could probably go to some crazy buildings at the Central State complex. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be scared. I'd leave. I'd leave Earth after that shit. How would you define success?
That's a good question. I feel like everyone has a different
It
definition.
should be different.
Yeah. I feel like success is doing whatever you want to do when you want to do it. That's success to me.
Okay.
Being able to do what you want to, and whenever you want to do it. That's that's to me.
That's pretty successful.
Yeah.
You got any questions?
I don't right
You
now.
said you stumped. You just been getting stumped all night. What? Okay, so coming into this podcast, you had a lot of shit to do today.
Yep.
You're putting a festival together.
Uh-huh.
You do your own thing musically. What is your personal goal, or what do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
Man, I definitely want to be like traveling a lot more. I think I see myself like going on like tour out in Europe. That's like I want to do. I also see myself just like not having or like just completely working for myself. Yeah, for like the majority of my like income, just being creative. That's
Okay.
where I see myself, like being my own boss.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good.
I'm my own boss, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Being a boss.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm with it. I'm with it. Well, I don't have much else. How can people get to Chreece? What do you do?
Yeah, you can go on the website, chreeceaf.com. Yeah, people, you can follow us at Chreece Fest.
Yep.
Yeah.
How can people get in contact with you?
You can hit me up on my website, oreojones.com.
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, bro.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your
great.
patience, man.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good. I want everybody to go to followdmoney.com, check out everything in the website, check out old episodes, see what Oreo's up to, buy tickets to Chreece, listen to his music, all that good stuff. We'll be back. Peace.